Good morning. It's 9 a.m. on the dot. Welcome to Cafecito con Colon. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Good morning, Dr. Rowan Stoibal. Good to see you this morning. Lots of love and light going your way from me to you. It is the 31st day of March. Wrapping up March, Women's History Month. And looking at the month to come, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and a few other important issues coming down the pipe. Got my Anamaria. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, check out my cool new mask that just came in the mail.
Oh, very nice.
Speaking out to the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We are grateful for their work and for their leadership. And I'm grateful for my mask that they sold me. They almost ran out.
That's good.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Good morning, Catherine Trujillo. Good to see you this morning. Selena Sierra. Buenos dias, Donna. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Emma Dahl. I knew if I brought your hita on here that you would show up for Cafecito con Colon. I've been missing you. My best regards to the good Dr. Dahl. Fantastic public servant, served with distinction in our military now. He is all about health and wellness, making a difference. Dr. Dahl, he is. Good morning, Leah. There's Dr. Dahl. Buenos dias, le de Dios, during this Holy Week. All right, it is 9:02 and we are grateful to Mariachi Vargas for bringing us Café Colon, our bumper music here on Cafecito con Colon. And we are thrilled to have with us our guest of honor today, somebody who I've admired for a very, very long time. She's a great friend. Her family's been awesome to me and always lifting me up every chance they get. And I couldn't be more pleased than to be able to shine a spotlight on the incredible Anamaria Dahl. Good morning, Anamaria.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Brian.
It is awesome to host you today. And I know we're going to talk a lot about your journey, your lived experience, the lens you look through, like I always talk about. And then we're going to talk about your passion point and your leadership as the chapter president and lead for Moms Demand Action right here in our Tierra del Encanto, the land of enchantment, the 47 star on that beautiful flag of the United States of America that Dr. Dahl defended. And someone asked me the other day about my flag. And, you know, my mom was a veteran in the Navy, or from the Navy. And that particular flag, I've got a couple, one that was flown over our Capitol in Santa Fe. And this particular flag that sits over my right shoulder was given to me by Ophelia Munzer, who is my adopted mom and the widow of my mentor, Richard Munzer, Dick Munzer of Sandoval County, one of the founders of Rio Rancho Public Schools. Phenomenal human being who made me, really made me a better human being. And his fingerprints are on my soul, and I have the beauty to love on his widow, my adopted mom, every single day. So that's where that flag came from. Somebody asked me that the other day, so I wanted to give a little background on my flag. And we thank all our veteranos for their service to our nation. And we are grateful you're here today. Dr. Steffi, I love that. Steffi's got a PhD now. We're so excited and proud of her and just proud to know her and have her be a regular on Cafecito con Colon. She is one of my extrovert therapists. And if I owe you a coffee mug, I don't have one today in front of me. I have my Moms Demand Action coffee mug today. Thank you, Anamaria Dahl. If I owe you a Cafecito con Colon coffee mug because you've made a contribution, make sure you send me a text message. You know my number. My cell number is everywhere. I'm going to put it in the chat here. That's my cell number. You can text me. I'll leave it for you on the no contact bench right outside. If you make a donation today to Moms Demand Action, we will also be happy to give you a coffee mug that says Cafecito con Colon. It has my favorite expression that I came up with many years ago. You know my philosophy? My philosophy is your success in life will always be directly proportional to the success you help others achieve. And so that is all on the Cafecito con Colon mug. Thanks to the Muniz family for gifting me my original coffee mug. And I'll make sure to arrange one of those. All right, Dr. Steffi, we will get together for coffee soon, and I will bring that to the meeting. Good morning, Steffi Ann. Good to see you, Stephanie. All right, let's see here. I'm going to do some news of the day. You've watched Cafecito con Colon, so you know how I do my little links. It's about 9:06. I'm going to take about 7 or 8 minutes to do some links, and then I'll come right back to you. Is that okay, Ana Maria? Tell me about your coffee. Tell me about your coffee mug.
So my coffee mug is for our chapter. We got these in December, and it has a photo of the New Mexico moms. You can see there's a ton in that photo there holding a big banner.
I love it. Mine's not as fancy, but there's your Moms Demand Action coffee mugs for the day. Thank you for using that today. I'm sure you use it every day. I'm sure it's precious, and it looks just great. How many moms are involved with Moms Demand Action here in New Mexico?
I think when we pull the data in our system, we have about 600 in the state that have been active at one point in time.
That's amazing. And there's lots of moms that stand with you tall and their families. And we know that when moms get involved in the issue, that's when we move the needle. And that's exactly what we saw happen in March 2021 as the House pushed out some great gun safety legislation. We'll talk about that today, Ana Maria. We'll talk about what we have to celebrate coming out of the House and where we're looking at legislation in the future. We can talk about what's going on in Santa Fe this last session. We can talk about anything you want. You're in charge today, okay, Ana Maria?
Thank you.
You bet. All right, I'll be right back. It's now 9:07, so give me about 7 or 8 minutes and I'll be right back, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Let me see here. Let me give you some links of the day. Let's see. Let me start with, I wanted to make sure that you all, I mentioned it yesterday, Yom HaShoah is coming, which is the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And in 1492, on this date in history, thank you to the history.com channel, this was the day that King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile conquered an area in Granada and freed Spain from Muslim rule after nearly 800 years. Not long after, the monarchs whose marriage and conquest cemented Spain as a unified kingdom issued the Alhambra Decree. Those of you that don't know your history, on this particular data point, the Alhambra Decree was the decree that mandated that all Jews be expelled. 1492. That's the day in history. And let me give you an opportunity to join us. Thank you to the Holocaust Museum, the New Mexico Holocaust Museum, and thank you to our very, very active, and let me just say thank you to the Federation. Our Jewish Federation of New Mexico has really done a tremendous job amplifying our story as Jews and giving a lot more points of engagement for community to learn. And this one, it will be no different. We will have a community-wide Yom HaShoah commemoration on that Holocaust Remembrance Day, April 7th. And you can register for that right here. I think that is the correct link for that. So please think about joining my family for that. There is the registration page. Let me put 2 in there. If that registration page may not be exactly correct. Let me try that again. How about we try this one? Good morning, Lynn. Appreciate you. Speaking of my tribal members, my fellow member of the tribe, Lynn Troyan. Good to see you this morning. So that is the correct registration page for the Yom HaShoah commemoration hosted by the New Mexico Holocaust Museum, where yesterday I filmed, I don't think it's top secret, but yesterday I went to the museum to film my portion of awarding Secretary of Interior Deb Haaland this year's Upstander Award for standing up and doing the right thing, like Anamaria Dahl does every day with Moms Demand Action. But I was the initial recipient of that award, and I've hosted and emceed the event in the past, the L'Chaim event to life, to support the museum And yesterday I got to go in there. It's closed. It was closed when I went in, but we filmed me presenting that award to our trailblazing Secretary of Interior, someone who's provided a voice to many who have been voiceless for many, many generations, especially our indigenous populations. The Upstander of the Year Award from the New Mexico Holocaust Museum. So the museum and the New Mexico Jewish Federation are hosting this community Yom HaShoah commemoration on the 7th at 7 p.m. So check that out. All right, let me give you okay, 9:10. Let me give you a couple more. You know, yesterday I talked a little bit about gun safety and gun violence prevention and how that is a huge priority for so many people that were just tremendous supporters of our president, and how there's a little dialogue going on right now about, I'm sorry, I should say a little disappointment about him advancing the infrastructure bill before the gun safety legislation to the Senate. And here's the AP story today about the infrastructure bill. And that might be something of interest to you. Also, yesterday I started giving you some opportunity to review coverage of the Chauvin trial, the person on trial for the murder of George Floyd, the nearly 10 minutes of video that was used in the opening statements. And the testimony yesterday was gut-wrenching. Everything from a firefighter who begged the police and who begged Chauvin to render aid to a stillless, lifeless George Floyd, and they refused to do so. Just unbelievable. That testimony yesterday was just brutal. Here is another link regarding the coverage from CNN, and that provides some great stuff. And finally, the NPR piece. I guess I was all over this morning at about 4:30, reviewing coverage. Interestingly enough, insurrection at the Capitol, January 6th. Turns out 2 Capitol police officers are going to sue former President Trump for the insurrection, for his lies and representations that the election was stolen, that precipitated the insurrection on January 6th, and their emotional and physical damage. And there is the NPR story on that. Let me give you one more thing here. Interestingly enough, one of the things I'm following, I'm all over the board here. This is totally non-related to anything I've talked about, but I'm very interested in this non-fungible tokens and these incredible auctions that are going off, selling at tens of millions of dollars with non-fungible tokens, including the first tweet of celebrities, including artwork, things like that. And this is an interesting story about how non-fungible tokens work and how they get their value. A cryptocurrency expert explains NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So if you're interested in that, I thought you might like that piece. Here is some good news of the day. The Albuquerque Journal. Here's a couple pieces here. This is where organizers are planning for what? An in-person balloon fiesta. So there is the story of the day. Came out last night late, covering that. And then yesterday, of course, the Democratic Party, you got to meet and learn about the lived experience of all 8 of the candidates who vied for the Democratic nomination for CD1. Your election will begin on May 4th, and June 1st is the general election for Congress. And Mark Moores is the nominee from the Republican Party. The Libertarian had their nominee, and we are closer to having the Democratic nominee, as there is a runoff today for the next 10 hours in CD1 between the State Central Committee members. Will cast their vote between Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez and Representative Melanie Stansbury. They are in a runoff today. Check that out. Here is the coverage in ABQ News and coverage in the Albuquerque Journal. And let me close with a couple quick pieces on the opening of the special session. I know a lot of people were asking me to bring in an expert on cannabis, and I never did get a chance to do that. So I apologize. I failed you there. Keep making suggestions though. Here's some good news about the Pfizer vaccine. I'm very excited. Aleli gets her second shot today. I get my first shot tomorrow. Finally. And the last one, oh man, I had so many links today. I'm so sorry. But let me just close with this one, I think. As you know, this story hits very close to home. Talked about it a little bit, not a lot. We thank Lancena, the Honorable Lancena, for hosting an event this weekend to shine a spotlight on the Stop Asian Hate effort, the Stop Asian Hate effort that's going on coast to coast, particularly since the murder of 6 Asian women in Atlanta. Talk about gun violence today and gun safety and gun violence prevention. We have seen a 150% increase in acts of hate against Asians in America in the last year, since we have talked about COVID-19 as the China virus and as the Wuhan virus and all these brutal monikers given to the COVID-19 virus. Here is an opportunity for you to register for an event tomorrow, and it will take place at 11 o'clock New Mexico time, April 1st, a candid conversation with Lily Zing, who is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, and she is going to discuss processing the trauma at work, leading to anti-racist efforts, and how to combat anti-Asian violence and discrimination. So please think about registering for this event here, hosted by BK, which is Barrett Kohler Publishers. Check that out. That's my final link of the day. And Honorable Danny Bernal Jr., I hope you get your vaccination soon, or turn a vaccine into a vaccination soon. Good morning. I am having a great morning. Thank you for joining me, my friend. Congratulations on your Believe in Berlin. Great event that you hosted this past week, and keep up the good work. Let me see here. I am now going to turn my attention to our guest of honor. I am done. Although almost done. There's one more link. Oh my goodness, it's 9:17. Anamaria Dahl is going to walk off the stage here because she's tired of waiting for me. She's like, does this guy ever stop talking? All right, here we go. Let me tell you just a little bit about let the sunshine in. That's kind of a cool picture. Huh? How's that look? Anamaria Dahl is like my sunshine. She is shining bright today. She is my sunshine. I'm going to turn her down just a little bit. Watch. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Here we go. Anamaria Dahl, I could talk a lot about you, your beautiful journey, your incredible work in so many areas. You've got your master's degree in public safety leadership and administration. Did that work at Arizona State. You got your associate's degree in criminal justice. You got your bachelor of science degree in criminal justice criminology. You've done so much great work in education. You're highly skilled. You're an expert in your field. You've got emergency management certifications. You've got all this great stuff. You've been phenomenal in the legal sector as a leader in the paralegal sector and supporting attorneys like me who couldn't figure out how to format or file a pleading if it meant our lives. But thank goodness for paralegals like you who actually help us find the front door every day. So I could talk a lot about that, but what I wondered, if you don't mind, I found a very powerful 45-second clip, and I believe it's hosted by Everytown, or maybe Everytown and Moms Demand Action. I wanted to play that clip, and then maybe instead of me going through your long introduction and all your accolades and telling everybody how much I love you and how much I appreciate your work and your friendship, you have always exhibited, your family has always exhibited so much love and affection and support for me over the last 5 to 10 years. I'm so grateful. But instead of talking a lot about that, I think I want to show this clip and then maybe just turn it over to you to tell me a little bit about your story. Would you be comfortable with that? Is that all right?
That sounds great.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if you've seen this clip, but it is very, very powerful. And I hope that my extrovert therapists will appreciate it, enjoy it, and find it to be as impactful as I did. So with that, let me share my screen and let me roll the clip.
I'd like to start this morning with a word about yesterday's tragic shooting in Parkland, Charleston, Orlando. I, along with all members of the Senate, will keep the victims and their families in our prayers.
My thoughts and prayers will go out to all of the victims, their families, and the entire community.
Offering our prayers and our thoughts.
There's a whole lot of mourning and a lot of grief and a lot of broken hearts.
My heart, my thoughts, my prayers.
And of course, we are thinking and praying today.
I stand for freedom.
Thoughts and prayers. Protect
That
the
will lift the victims and their families.
Let me just say, and I'll leave that up for a second, so you can text checks to 64433 and be dialed into some of the information coming out, particularly as it relates to legislation. But I think one of the things that I've heard, particularly since the gun violence in the last 2 weeks, maybe going on 3 weeks now, both in our neighboring state of Colorado, in Boulder, and I heard a heart-wrenching story this morning on one of my podcasts. They have been telling the story of the folks who lost their lives in Boulder. And they talked about this young lady who was 51 years old, my age. And this 51-year-old lady had extraordinary skills. She had different abilities, and she had been a bagger at that grocery store for 30 years. She had some developmental disabilities, but was known as a champion and the biggest heart in that grocery store. She had been there for 30 years. It's the only job she ever had. And after 30 years of bagging groceries, she lost her life to a senseless act of gun violence. So one of the things that I've heard that's been most powerful that really hit me to my core, and then I saw this video on Twitter, was somebody was giving a speech and they said, no more thoughts and prayers. We need change and action. We need action. So here, tell your senators to take action on background checks now. 64433. Text the word checks. This is hosted by Everytown for Gun Safety, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and Students Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And with that, I will just say that there is no one who brings a more heartfelt story to this work than our chapter leader right here in New Mexico, Anamaria Dahl. Anamaria, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I think what's really important to realize when we watch videos like that and when we hear about these mass shootings is that they're preventable. And I think about that in my own life a lot because I am a survivor of domestic violence. My ex-husband strangled me unconscious and I was a goner. And if it wasn't for my son, who was 1.5, screaming, which stopped my ex-husband, I may not be here. My ex-husband tried really hard. And I think that's what we hear a lot with gun violence is people say, if somebody wants to kill someone, they will, regardless of the gun. And I am here today because my ex-husband did not have a gun. He tried with his bare hands. He didn't stop to go to the kitchen to get a knife. Thank God. He didn't try to burn me. There wasn't anything like that happening. Thank God. And I know that's a story of a lot of survivors. But the single reason I'm here is because he didn't have a firearm. You know, assault rifles make mass shootings 6 times more deadly. Ways to prevent these shootings are out there in gun safe and gun sense legislation. And that's the way we can ensure that we can disarm hate and have a safer America.
I appreciate that, and disarming hate. I mean, I think that's really something that resonates with a lot of people, and we need to, whether it's stopping Asian hate or embracing gun violence prevention and gun safety, it's all about disarming hate. And I appreciate you telling your story, particularly as we get ready to move into Sexual Assault Awareness Month next month. And as I wore or brought out my mask this morning from the coalition, the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, it is so, I think you do it with such grace, but I think people, unless they are a survivor, I think it's hard for folks to understand how painful it is to tell that story. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us this morning. And that's the lens you look through. And I appreciate you telling that story, because I think anecdotally people tend to have a certain perspective on who is a victim of domestic violence. They don't necessarily think of it as that woman who is married, who has a near terminal degree. I mean, you've got a master's degree, highly educated, highly skilled. And there's this anecdotal and incorrect assumption about what the profile is of victims of domestic violence. And so I appreciate so much you sharing your story, because hopefully it is an opportunity for folks to have a paradigm shift in what they believe to be what goes on in situations where there is domestic violence, and in your case, near fatal domestic violence. So tell us, I got a ton of links here. I'll put it while you visit with us a little bit. Maybe start at the 30,000 foot level. I know that the first one I'm going to put up, and I have to tell you, I've known Moms Demand Action for a long time, and I know anytime you get moms involved in an issue, you're going to move the needle quickly. But it wasn't until preparing for today to be with you, Anamaria, that I actually read the story as to the origin of Moms Demand Action. And Mother Jones did a great piece. That's the one I'm sure you've seen it, but actually, the founder, and you actually have her book with us today. I think it's called Fighting Like a Mother, which I think is a very creative, great approach. Catherine, thank you for joining me. Donna and Lynn, and thanks for all these comments. I appreciate it very much. But I'm going to stay focused here. But maybe you can tell us at that 30,000 foot, maybe how do you tell the story about how did Moms Demand Action get started? I'll post a few links that were written about it, but I want to kind of hear from you as our chapter leader here in New Mexico. And every state has a chapter now of Moms Demand Action. So you are coast to coast. And once we get Puerto Rico statehood, we'll have another state with Moms Demand Action. I'm pretty sure they have a chapter there, but it's a chapter of the territory of. But we are fighting for statehood for Puerto Rico. Properly framed, I'm confident that the people of Puerto Rico on that beautiful island, Isla de Encanta, we are the land of enchantment. They're the island of enchantment. We have a very special connection. Senator Heinrich is advancing that legislation for Puerto Rico statehood. Obviously, being New Mexico's only redheaded Puerto Rican Jew who goes to Mass every Sunday, I've got a special place in my heart for that legislation. And having been to Puerto Rico, putting in water systems in incredible areas that were affected and didn't get the attention they deserved, nor, I will also say, nor did they have the political leadership they deserved. And part of that, I still believe, is because of the colonial history of that island. Anyway, that's a whole nother episode of Cafecito con Colon. Let's stay focused. Sorry, Anamaria, I went down that rabbit hole, but let's talk about kind of the origins and how you tell the story of when somebody says, how did Moms Demand Action actually get started, and what do you do?
So the unfortunate events that unfolded at the Sandy Hook Elementary School is what was the tipping point for Shannon Watts. There is a documentary, I think it's still on Netflix, it's out there, it's called Newtown, and it's moving. You will be sobbing in the first 5 minutes. The firsthand experience of the folks that come onto the documentary and give their lived experience is just so moving. They've also gotten involved in legislation and speaking in Congress against this issue, because we know it's preventable. So Shannon Watts was sitting at her kitchen table and was looking around on Facebook for a group, much like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. She thought there's something out there. I want to get involved. and there wasn't anything. And so within, I think she said within a day, there was like 1,000 folks that joined her group, and it just spread. And there was a Mayors Against Illegal Guns that Keller was a part of, and Mike Bloomberg started that. And with that information, Shannon was able to see which mayors were on board and grow the chapters and grow and grow and grow from there. She did write a book. It's called Fight Like a Mother. Yeah, so Moms Demand Action is a grassroots movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence. We pass stronger gun laws and work to close the loopholes that jeopardize the safety of our families. We also work in our own communities and with business leaders to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership. We know that gun violence is preventable, and we're committed to doing what it takes to keep families safe. So as you know, the shooting at Sandy Hook was a mass shooting at an elementary school. And how I got started with Moms Demand Action was I thought there was an active shooter at my son's elementary school. I was at work a couple years ago and was taking a break and was scrolling through Facebook, and that's all I saw was a Facebook post. And all it said was active shooter at Hoover Middle School, which shares the parking lot to John Baker Elementary School. And my son was at John Baker at the time. And I got up from my desk and I just ran to my car. At the time I was working by the airport, which is kind of far from the foothills. I had to get on I-25 and get on I-40 and not get pulled over by any police officers. And I was driving and trying to check the updates on the Facebook post, and got to the school, and there was an officer, and there was a ROTC high school El Dorado student who worked at Holiday Park Community Center. My son was there because the elementary school had finished for the day, and so I was lucky and I was able to get him. But the image that you see on TV of the parents standing in horror, not knowing if they're going to see their kid, looking for any kind of update, any kind of news, and just standing there like still in silence. When you see these parents at school functions, everyone's smiling and laughing and hugging each other, you never see a terrified look on their face. And that never left me. And we were so lucky that it was a barricaded subject on the same street as the school, and the state police just wanted to take precaution and lock down the schools. They escorted the kids out of the back of the school who were still in session, and I took my son home and I collapsed in my kitchen and cried. And I had a voicemail 2 days prior for an invitation to a Moms Demand Action meeting, and I just was like, I have to go. I have to get involved and make sure that alert, that false alarm of an active shooter is never a real one for my son. I know after that, I looked into getting him a bulletproof backpack for a while. They're not in style, so that's a difficult selling point for my now 13-year-old. But that's how I.
That's a really difficult selling point. Now, folks don't know you're a 13-year-old, but I do, and I've known him since he was much younger than 13. And that young man is one of the coolest kids that I know. So I can assume that bulletproof backpack would have been a non-starter for him. He is Mr. Fashion.
He is.
But imagine, may I stop you there just for a second? Because it dawns on me that one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was the conversation between a parent and a child. I mean, how do you even start a conversation with a child about a bulletproof backpack? How do you start a conversation March 31st, 2021, about the fact that you have had to work so hard to get a very common sense background check through the United States House, and now we're worried it's going to die in the Senate? how do you have a conversation about the Chauvin trial and that murder of George Floyd that we all watched for nearly 10 minutes? How do you have these conversations with children? My son's 23 years old. That guy is processing things more quickly than I do. Those conversations are not as difficult. He actually engages me, but I mean, I can't imagine having a 13-year-old son and having a conversation about Officer Chauvin, about Asian hate, about, and your son is a young man of color. So, I mean, and I'm not sure everybody would know that, and I hope it's okay that I said that, but I would just say that these are conversations that you've had to grapple with. And I wonder, as we talk about moms demand action, got a lot of moms coming together, probably looking for a lot of support and guidance on how do you have these conversations about gun safety and gun violence prevention. And I just wonder if you could share with us a little bit about that, Anamaria.
So it's like multiple conversations to have on multiple days, and I don't know that I'm doing it right. For the school element, they do have active shooter drills, and from what I understand, they are horrific. They are, I think they're using blanks, they're banging on doors, they're yelling and screaming, and having the kids hide. A lot of the children are emotional and terrified. And my son, I think, is taking the stance that he's the strong man. So I think he was trying to be of support to his classmates. So there's active shooter drills at schools that teach one way, and there's other ways of doing of teaching those sorts of things to students. What I remember from what I learned at the DA's office, they have their own drill for the building. And I remember speaking with the gentleman that was in charge of that division and asking him, like, what is your, like, you agree that they're doing it a little off at his school. What do you think is the right way to do this? And he said, does your son know how to get home? And I said, yes. And he's like, tell him, if he can, to run home. And so that's what I tell him. And I tell him to be vigilant and assess the situation. And if you think you should hide under something, then hide. If you see the guy with the gun, you need to stay away, make it so he can't see you.
And when I was 13, I was trying to worry about, was it going to be tetherball or the monkey bars? That was my thing I had to contemplate. You're telling me that you have to have a conversation with your son, that in that high stress moment, his analysis has to be, does he hide or does he run home? I mean, just let that sink in for a minute, folks. I mean, we're talking about a 13-year-old young man who, as you heard Anamaria say, he's got a natural default position of wanting to be strong and wanting to help others and protect others. Yet she's having to tell him, okay, son, here's the deal. You got an active shooter, which we didn't even have that expression when I was a kid, active shooter. But if there's one at your school, you have to make an analysis and decide, you have to do an analysis to decide whether you run home or whether you hide, and run for cover.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
And so one of the other conversations is when he goes to a friend's house, and do they have guns? Do they lock their guns? Do their friends play with the guns? Do the friends shoot the guns? I know a lot of people have this notion that more guns make us safer. There's no data to support that. And that's what I love about Moms Demand Action. And being in school myself.
I have a page for you. Will you talk about the stats page? I saw that.
Yes, right. Stats and data is important to know that there's research being done out there, and stats and numbers don't lie. And so that's another conversation that's difficult to have with my son, because he gets a little embarrassed. Like, Mom, why are you asking about? I just want to go to the sleepover. And I'm like, well, we need to make sure that, that you're going to be safe. And he knows not to touch a firearm. Yeah, if you want to click on New Mexico, see it's dark red. So we have some high rates here in New Mexico, which is not news to folks. The last
talk about that a little bit. I know these are things that you think
I
about.
was like,
yeah, no, go ahead. And I'm sorry, my body language wasn't very precise there. Sorry.
I'm not in the
I wanted you
TV
to I wanted you to explore these numbers a little bit, and I'll post
Yeah.
this. It's everystat.org, posted by every town, for common sense gun safety and gun violence prevention. But let's talk about New Mexico. Thanks for having me click on this, but will you talk about it a little bit?
Yes, yeah. New Mexico has the 7th highest rate of gun deaths in the US, while New Mexico is the 37th highest in population. So we have a really disproportionate amount here. 65% of all gun deaths are suicide in New Mexico, which represents the 5th highest rate of gun suicide in the US. That's really high and really alarming. In an average year, 415 people die by guns in New Mexico, with 64.7% of those deaths being by suicide. In New Mexico, there are 33 hours between gun suicide deaths.
So a little bit more than one per day. I'm sorry, almost one a day, every 33 hours.
So homicide is the 9th highest rate in the US. Here in New Mexico. Of all homicides, 65% involve a gun. New Mexico has the highest rate of gun deaths among Latino people. Black people in New Mexico are 4 times more likely than white people to die by gun homicide. In New Mexico, gun deaths have increased by 50% from 2010 to 2019, compared to 17% nationwide. This represents an increase of 170 gun deaths over this period in New Mexico.
Wow. Hey, Anamaria, this is interesting here. We always talk about being at the bottom of the good list and the top of the bad. And again, here with unintentional gun deaths in the United States, we are the 14th highest, with a rate of 0.2 deaths per 100,000 people. And as you know, we've got 2.1 million people in New Mexico. 483 people unintentionally die by gun each year.
And that's kind of what I was talking about, by children accessing a gun that's not secured and not in a safe is going to raise that rate of unintentional shootings.
As Anamaria said, New Mexico has the highest rate of gun deaths among Latino people, and gun deaths have increased 50% in a decade, as compared to a 17% increase nationwide. And there's something we haven't talked about. I'm sure Anamaria was about to get to this, but gun violence costs New Mexico $3.1 billion each year, of which 131.9 million is paid by taxpayers. To put that into perspective, gun violence costs New Mexico 3.1 billion. Our annual budget is about 2.4 times that. We have a budget. The budget that was just passed was about it was more than 7.5 and less than $8 billion. So $3.1 billion each year. So I'm going to put this link there. Anything else you wanted me to maybe kind of touch on here? Or this is a pretty powerful website, very, very user friendly. It's got all these different bar graphs and data points for us, and then they also provide the methodology for their work. So I'll put that in the chat. And we'll go back to Anamaria now.
Yeah, I think it's just important to stress that these are preventable. And one of the bills that we passed this session was a civil rights bill, ending qualified immunity. And that kind of brings me to my third and most important conversation that I've had with my son with regard to guns. I'm Puerto Rican and my ex-husband is white and Black. And so my son is a beautiful mix. And I believe it's important to say how he presents or how people perceive him. And we live in the foothills. And so he is, there's a couple Black children at his school. And so that's how he feels going through America is in the footsteps of a Black man. And these conversations have been the hardest. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called, what is it called? Now I'm blanking on the on the name of the movie.
I did find the trailer for the other movie that you talked about on Netflix.
Okay.
I found the
Great.
trailer. It's a
Okay.
little long, so we're not going to show it because I want to spend more time talking to you. But I posted
Yes.
the trailer in there. If you think of the name of this movie, just let me know. And
I just thought of it. The Hate You Give.
Okay, actually, I've seen that. Okay, great. I'll post that.
So I kind of sat with it for a while, whether to take my son to see it in the theater or not, because the theater is so, any kind of violence or loud noises are amplified when you're in the theater. And I did take him to see it. And we just cried. We just cried the whole movie. He didn't think that could happen in America. Growing up here in the foothills, he hasn't seen anything like that. He gets called certain terms and certain words that we don't like, but we have not seen that sort of violence. And I need him to know that happens and that he needs to be super safe. He needs to be extra polite. He needs to be smarter and more eloquent and more educated than his classmates. He needs to push harder so he cannot be profiled. And I think that you touched on that with my story, and that's how I felt, was being a survivor of domestic violence meant certain things, and I just hated that. And I worked so hard to try to erase those things. And I'm still a single mom and I'm still a Latina. And I think I've kind of realized that the last few years is I'm not going to be able to erase all of my circumstances. I can try to get a seat at the table and to make change and to make my community a better place. But some things are never going to go away. And for him, that's the color of his skin, and it's how he presents to the world. And for me, it's been ongoing conversations with him, a lot of education on Trayvon Martin, on Laquan McDonald, on a lot of these victims of gun violence in our country, and knowing that that he has to be safe. I mean, I have nightmares all the time about it. Anytime I see one of these shootings of a Black man, I see my son. And now he's getting taller and taller. And it's just like, you need to stop.
Right.
Stop growing, because you're going to be, he's going to be huge.
He's going to be huge. He's such a charming, he's got just a beautiful, you can already see his charisma coming out. And I've watched him grow up a bit and at your dad and mom's house, and just, I've enjoyed interacting with him over the years. And interestingly enough, I thought I was special and that I was good with children because he was so nice to me. But now come to find out, there's comments in the section, on the comment section here on the feed. It's Angie Gonzalez Carver's saying, "Oh yeah, he's always talks to me whenever I see him." And I'm like, I thought I was special, and he liked me. Evidently, he's just got that charming personality with everybody. He's a great young man.
He's outgoing. He's an extrovert. He's funny. He's the class clown. And
He's
so,
great.
yeah.
He's great. But as you said, even the testimony in the Chauvin case yesterday, there was a young lady, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was Monday, but I think it was yesterday. She was 17 at the time George Floyd was murdered. And now she's 18, I think. And she said that, when she reflects and when she sees George Floyd, she sees her uncle, she sees her brother, she sees her father, and I hear you saying the same thing. And, frankly, for those of us who are not Black, who don't present with color, who we just can't, it's just hard to comprehend the collective trauma that you have to process, and how much more so as a mother. Hence, Moms Demand Action, saying that gun safety, gun violence prevention has to be front and center. Do we care about infrastructure? Absolutely. But President Biden, you ran and you said we were going to make sure that gun safety and gun violence prevention was a priority. Since you've been elected, we've had 2 mass shootings. Where are we on this issue? Now, all that said, you've got some good news for us. What happened in the House this past week or so, and where are we at, both nationally, and then maybe talk about some of the legislation that's coming up locally and nationally. And because we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, and so I want to close with that. Like, the success you've had, Moms Demand Action has absolutely made a difference. I also want to give people an opportunity. Thanks to Honorable Clarissa Pena in her district and my city councilor here, they worked with Project Child Safe to give out these Project Child Safe gun locks, and I got one, and I brought the information here. The problem is, I do not own a gun, and so this is not helpful in my house. So if you would like this gun lock, if you will just text me at 270-2154. Again, I will leave this on the no contact bench of gratitude outside my front door, and you can have this if you can make use of this to protect a child from unintentional violence and potential death. So anyway, I'll close with that, but I wanted to send it back to you to talk about the success on legislation. What's Moms Demand Action's agenda going forward? You are the chapter leader for New Mexico. Thank goodness, because I couldn't think of a better advocate. Tell us where we are, the success, and where we're headed in the months ahead.
Just to piggyback on the gun locks, I have a ton as well. If anyone needs them, I will deliver them all around town. I'll take a road trip around the state.
Love it. Love it.
So nationwide, we're working on background checks. It passed the House, and so we need you to text checks to 64433 to get your senator to say yes. We are so lucky in the land of enchantment. We have amazing senators here that we know are going to say yes, but that's not the case around the country. Here in New Mexico, Moms Demand Action has had successes over the years in passing background checks here locally. We have a red flag law. We have a domestic violence relinquishment law, and those save lives. The red flag law is new. It was passed last year, and that's oftentimes used when someone is exhibiting red flags for suicide attempts, or they have discussed it and they have a firearm. And it acts much like a restraining order in that it'll restrain them from their firearm for a period of time. And what we see around the country is that these folks write into their judges and thank them for that relinquishment for that period of time. It really does save lives. Here locally, we did work on the civil rights law. It was HB4, and it ends qualified immunity. We are waiting for the governor to sign it. And what we know at every town at Moms Demand Action is that police violence is gun violence, and that there is oftentimes not justice served. Like we've discussed in the Chauvin trial, I can't watch it. I can't sit through another trial and hear hear the disgusting things said about the victim that the defense puts on. And what we saw with Laquan McDonald showed in the 16 Shots documentary, which I also believe is on either on Netflix or Prime, is that even with a guilty verdict, sometimes the judge will decide to not consider some of the charges. And that's what we saw with Laquan McDonald, is that it was a second degree murder, and there was an aggravated battery for each shot. And so the judge threw out all the aggravated battery shots, guilty of those 16 counts. And he only considered the second degree murder, and he only gave 7 years. And we know that half of that was served. So this we have a long way to go for justice. And so I am proud that Moms Demand Action is now weighing in on this fight and supporting every community in the nation and here locally. Going forward, we are hoping that those unintentional shootings decrease. But what we think is the best way is to have a secure storage law where folks are required to secure their firearms. And what we know is that most firearm owners are lawful citizens and will follow the law should it be put in place. And so we were a little bit bummed that Senate Bill 224 didn't get all the way through this session. Also, there's ghost guns that are a big problem on the rise. There's been a few cases here locally. There's been a ton in California. 3D printers can print firearms where they're undetectable for you to take them on an airplane. And so it's a big, big concern. And so Moms Demand Action this year is going to be working on educating the public and legislators, and hopefully getting some more of these bills passed next year.
I love that. Thank you for that great rundown of those bills. Let me just welcome a special Cafecito colleague who is only here because you're here. I know he's a big fan of your work, but he just finished a phenomenal 60-day bid for Congress. But Victor Reyes, I see you. I appreciate you. I value immensely what you did for the conversation about this congressional seat. You're an incredible young man who is far more brave than I have ever been in telling your story. And just know that I appreciate you. And I know too that you actually, I watched, in fact, I should have rewatched it in preparation for today's visit, because I'm sure Victor did a better job facilitating a conversation, because he hosted you a couple weeks ago, right?
He did, yes. He has a lot of lived experience in these areas and with active shooter drills like my son. And I think someone who has lived through things and is a survivor has a really great voice in leading change in our nation.
Yes, yes. So thank you for your continued leadership. I'm optimistic that you'll continue to serve in our executive branch here in New Mexico, and that I know that you really ran your campaign with a real authenticity and in a way that I know all of your supporters are very proud to have stood tall with you, and they are confident they're going to get a chance to stand with you again for public office. And that's always my goal. I hope that my supporters are not just proud of the work I'm doing, but that they will be proud to stand with me again in the future. And I know that that's going to be true for you, Victor Reyes. So thank you for that. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is somebody sent me a text message about the tear I went on regarding Puerto Rico. But then followed up and said, well, I didn't know she was Puerto Rican. And so then it's kind of funny, because we do have that common Boricua thread.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yes, yes, sir. My mom has some red in her hair, and we have freckles. I know I wasn't born with as many as I have now, and they just keep popping up. And the same is true with my son as well. He gets more and more freckles as the years go by.
That guy, El Guapito, is what I'm going to call him. El Guapito, that guy is awesome. Anamaria Dahl, you've done a beautiful job, as always, being a great, authentic, and effective advocate, particularly in your leadership position with New Mexico's chapter of Moms Demand Action. I appreciate you. I highly value you, and thank you for opening with such a powerful statement that is your story, which informs the lens you look through and informs your work and provides us some insight on your passion points. I'll give you an opportunity to share. Tomorrow, we're going to have All Face with us, which really serves some of the same population you advocate for in a regular basis as we do Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we appreciate the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And we appreciate the work and services provided by All Face in a very special way. And so we'll have Michelle Aldana with us tomorrow, who I think Anamaria knows. And Anamaria, I'll give you a chance to close. We'll finish with you and maybe talk a little bit. You've got your beautiful Moms Demand Action button, but you've also got the Disarm Hate button on, and share with us kind of your closing thoughts for the day. And I'll just say, reach out to folks in isolation, tell them they're not alone. Tell them you met this incredible advocate in Anamaria Dahl and Moms Demand Action. And let's make sure that we embrace gun safety in America, in our land of enchantment. And let's make sure that every day we're thinking about how can we embrace gun violence prevention. Let's get it done, America. Anamaria Dahl, take it away.
I think, folks, if you continue these conversations with your friends and your family and share what you learned today, share our links, pick up Shannon's book, I think educating the masses on these topics is really key. I also just want to give a shout out to the Rape Crisis Center. I've been so lucky to be on the board for a couple of years with them, and I have my turquoise lights. I'm ready to paint the town teal.
I forgot that you were on their board. As you know, I hosted them yesterday.
Yes. Yep.
What a great visit. And I think I'm getting some teal lights for over my garage, my spotlight or my door light here. So I'm going to be painting the town teal as well. Thank you for, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I forgot that you're on the board. You're amazing. You are simply amazing. Thanks for inspiring me. Keep going. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's pretty much all I have. You know, I have this second shot at life that you know, my son gave me, and I just need to do all that I can. And I'm so grateful to have this position with Moms. They are such an amazing organization, so open to listening to millennials, people of color, being inclusive. And I'm so grateful to be here with you today and talking to all your people on Facebook.
Well, thank you for your friendship, and thank you for your advocacy, and thanks for making New Mexico a better place. You know how to lift up New Mexico, and I am so honored that you're in my world, and you've helped inform me, and you will continue to be a guide and a trusted source for me. And I just appreciate you being in my corner and being my friend. So thank you, Anamaria Dahl.
Thank you.
You bet. Make it a beautiful day here in the land of enchantment. I'll see you tomorrow. Let me just give you one last shot of this incredible New Mexican, Anamaria Dahl. How can people reach you, Anamaria? What's the best way? Should I put your, what should I put in the chat here? Should I put, I don't know what I said. Somebody, Michelle, you said, yes, I am. I don't know what I am or what I said, but, and Amori Paz, thank you for your very powerful comments today. I appreciate, I've seen some of your comments roll through. Thank you very much for making those comments, but I don't think I was able to tag you personally, Anamaria. I was able to, I don't think oh no, I did. So you got a Facebook
on Facebook, yeah. And then we have our Moms page is NM, oh no, is it Moms? It's Moms Demand Action -NM. And you can follow us on Twitter, Moms Demand, and there's also an Instagram page. And for us locally, yes, Brian tagged me on my Facebook page, and my Twitter is Dahl MPSLA.
All right, and if you check my Twitter feed, and then Brian Colon, I think I was successful last night, I think, at tagging you, yes. Anamaria, maybe was I?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you can find her there. I posted the link to the Instagram page, the NM page. It's been a beautiful time with you, Anamaria. Thank you for letting me go over by 4 minutes. I know you've got a robust and enriched schedule. I'll let you get out there and doing the work you love to do. I appreciate you, Madam Chapter Leader for Moms Demand Action, New Mexico.
Thank you.
All right, let's make sure that we embrace gun safety and gun violence prevention, as well as making sure that every day we're doing everything we can to disarm hate. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. See you
Oh,
tomorrow.
one more thing. If they want to donate, they can go to the nationwide page, Moms Demand Action, and
Wait.
donate there. And then I guess
say
they'll
that
send you
again.
the receipt.
Yeah, say that again, and so people can get their Cafecito con Colon mug. How should they donate?
momsdemandaction.org.
Oh, okay. So that's the link.
They
I put
can find the donation page there, and then we'll maybe they'll send you the receipts and they'll get their mug. Thanks, Mom, for the reminder.
Yes, good job, both of you. There's the Moms Demand Action page. And then here is my Gmail account. Just send me a note. You don't have to send me a receipt. Just tell me you made a nice contribution to MDA, not the Muscular Dystrophy Association, but Moms Demand Action.
Mom.
Happy birthday to my sister yesterday. She did a little fundraiser for MDA, the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Thanks to everybody who donated and supported that work. Love you very much. And I'll see you soon, Sherry. And Anamaria Dahl, let's donate in Anamaria Dahl's honor and for her authenticity and vulnerability for being able to share her story with us today on Cafecito con Colon. Make that donation. I'll get you a mug, and I will continue to cherish my Moms Demand Action mug. Thank you, Ana Maria.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day, everybody. Come back again tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll see you in 23 hours. Bye-bye.